The history of art is not only filled with beauty, pleasure, and spiritual elevation, it is also filled with controversy, gossip, hatred, and scandal. Do you want to learn a bit more about some of the most controversial works of art of all times? If you do, stay with me. Hi everyone, this is Amanda Pontes again, and this is Art4All.tips. And today we will begin a series of videos in which we are going to talk about some of the most scandalous and controversial works of art of all times. The first one is Madame X by John Singer Sargent. Looking at this picture nowadays, it is difficult to even believe that at some point this painting caused any controversy at all. It is a classical painting of a woman wearing a black dress. How could this possibly have caused any scandal? Well, but it did. This painting, which is on display at the Metropolitan Museum of Art and was recently featured in an episode of my favorite TV show, This Is Us. There were many of Rebecca memories around this particular painting, caused a lot of trouble for Sargent at the time where he first painted it, and a lot of controversy also surrounding its subject, who was a well-known socialite at the time. But the main reasons why it caused such a scandal is, if you look at Madame X, you will see that her skin is very pale, very, very pale. It's almost translucent. And people at the time thought that it was so pale that it was morbid, that it reminded people of death. Also, they thought that her cleavage was way too exposed, more than it was considered decent for a high society lady at the time. And also, her dress had one of her straps was falling from her shoulders, and then Sargent braided it in order for both the straps to be on place. Other than that, the subject of this portrait was a very well-known socialite at the time. Her name was Virginie Gatroux. And what happened was that the painter decided not to conceal her identity, but actually it was quite the opposite. He very explicitly showed who she was. It was indeed a portrait, almost a photograph of her, as if it was an Instagram picture of herself. She was back then a socialite, which could be in some degree the equivalent of a modern day Instagram influencer. So that's what he was doing. He was portraying a very public picture of her with her cleavage on display and very pale, deathly white skin. This picture really caused some quite high degree of controversy and scandal, but it is so tame for our standards nowadays that it is a good example for us to see and reflect on how the audience sensibilities change according to the times, the periods of history, the places where we are, and that we learn a lot about how people thought back then and their morality and values and what was considered controversial back then, and we see how different their sensibilities were from our own nowadays. The second painting we are going to talk about is Olympia by Edward Manet. This is a very famous painting. It is one of the most famous paintings, surely from Impressionism until modern times, but if not, from all times throughout the history of Western art. And if you look at it at first, there isn't anything that scandalous or controversial about the picture. It is a female nude, but female nudes have been one of the main subjects in the history of Western art, and before that didn't cause that much of a stir to begin with. What was it about Olympia that caused such a scandal that had never been caused by so many nudes before it? Well, the great masters of the past used to paint female nudes, but they did it to paint mythological creatures. And Edouard Manet was copying one of the great masters, Tiziano. He was copying his Venus of Urbino, and he even caused the exact same pose that Tiziano used for his own nude as he portrayed Venus. But what Manet did was that he got his inspiration from a great master, but instead of portraying a mythological figure, he was portraying a prostitute. And he made sure that we knew she was a prostitute. And there were many hidden, actually not so hidden codes in order to make sure for us to understand without a drop of doubt that it was indeed a prostitute. The flower in her hair, the black ribbon around her neck. One of her feet is barefoot. The other, she on the other foot, she's wearing like a satin slipper. There is a black cat near her by the bed, and there is another woman who is probably a maid or a servant who is bringing her a flower bouquet, probably sent to her by one of her clients or admirers. Olympia is also looking at us very firmly, straightly, directly into us, with no shame, no fear, and no embarrassment. There is an inner confidence in the way she looks at her. She's very sure of herself, and she has no shame, and she has no sense of inferiority regarding who she is and what she does. She is lying in her bed, naked, and also what Manet did is that instead of portraying the nude female figure in an idealized way, he did it in a very realistic way. Her skin has very clear yellow undertones, which may perhaps indicate that her health was not the best, and her body is also very realistic. She has a belly, kind of a muffin top. She also has very soft legs, and her skin is so solid that you almost feel like you could touch it. There's texture on her skin. Also, the way he positioned us in relation to Olympia, we are looking at her bed, at her bedroom, and the door is on the other side from us as we see the maid coming into, and she's looking at us with so much strength and with so much certainty that what he's trying to say is that we are positioned as one of Olympia's clients, as if we had an appointment with her. Maybe we are leaving, we don't know, but we are inside the scene. We are inside this bed with Olympia. We are part of the scene. We are one of her many customers. Also, there is also the formal aspects of this scene. Manet was a genius. He was a master of chiaroscuro, of dark and light, of shadow and light. And he did that with his painting. Her Olympia is her skin is fair with yellow undertones. She's very pale, and behind her, the scenery, the maid, the cat, everything is very dark. And the contrast between light and dark makes our eye go straight to her. He wants us to focus our attention into her figure, her eyes, her body, her presence. The background is also unfinished, is also unpolished, and this is on purpose, because he doesn't want us to waste time looking at tiny details on the bed or behind her. He wants our eyes to go straight into her, into the very firm and confident expression on her eyes. Okay, we spoke about two very controversial works of art so far, but we will continue this series, so stay with me, don't go anywhere if you want to learn more gossip and if you want to learn more about scandals regarding the art world and works of art. So follow along with this series of videos. If you liked it, click on the like button. Please subscribe. Let me know if you're interested in particular works. Bye!